Arsenal 4, Leeds 0 is how it finishes. So Arsenal stretch their lead at the top of the table. Of course, with Villa and Manchester City still yet to play, they currently sit 7 points clear. Jules is still with us. Overall, this is the sort of performance that will kind of quiet those who are saying, "Oh, Arsenal are going to blow it again," because this was really professional, wasn't it?
This was the perfect away performance. To go away, and we all laugh and go, "Well, Leeds is a tough place to go," but the atmosphere is what makes it as tough. Never mind just the opposition. But from the very get-go, this game was dominated by Arsenal. I think there was a little 10-minute spell at the start of the second half because he brought on Okafor and Calvert-Lewin, so he tried to sort of make it a bit of a fight. But you got Gabriel and Saliba, you're not going to win a fight either. And so this was 100% the perfect away performance from Arsenal.
I chuckled.
And I think, by the way, one of the biggest things for Arteta, they scored 2 goals in open play.
Yep.
Because they haven't done that for, 2-3 games in the Premier League. So, perfect.
I chuckled at the fact that, not that Saka was injured, but that Saka pulled up in the warm-up and Madueke comes in, it's seamless.
Which is different to what the conversation was last year, wasn't it? Remember when Saka got injured, Arsenal started dropping points,
and okay,
it was pointed out as an excuse, and now they've got so much depth.
And okay, it was Leeds, and they're not the strongest team in the Premier League, but it can be a frantic game up there at Ellen Road. It can be very physical, which may be one of the reasons Havertz played in a midfield 3 and getting up to support Gyökeres, because he's more of a physical player. And I don't know, and Jules can answer it at some point, if there is an issue behind the scenes with Martin Odegaard, I don't know. But I did chuckle at the fact, watching Arsenal, and these substitutions that they were able to make, with Odegaard coming on, with Calafiori coming on, with Jesus coming on, with all these players, the strength that Arsenal have, it seems to me pretty much with any 11 they put out at the moment, it is 11 that could beat most teams, not just in the Premier League, but arguably in Europe. Now, the big question is, I don't think there's a huge question. I think they will win the Premier League. The big question is, can they win the Premier League and possibly the Champions League? But they just seem strong to me, regardless of who's in the side. And I know Gyökeres has had his criticisms for not scoring goals and blah, blah, blah. But he's got to get some service, which he got today. And, you know, you got Eze can come in and play. You got Odegaard, who come off the bench. Obviously, Eze come on at some point. Mikel Merino was injured, who's also a guy who's played 2 or 3 different roles. And I think today, even though it was Leeds, I think today Arsenal just flexed their muscles again and said, listen, whatever we need to do and however we need to do it, we've got the tools to get the job done.
And it was like a late Christmas present for you, Jules. We know your love of Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I think Mikel Arteta felt that he deserved another start after the 45 minutes he had in the Champions League on Wednesday against Almaty. It was maybe a good time to give a break to Martin Odegaard, who maybe lately hasn't just been the most creative. He has another role in this team right now in terms of control and triggering the press, but in terms of creativity, maybe something was lacking a little bit. I think Arteta also wanted the size of Havertz in a game like this against the back 5. And that worked, to be fair. I think he's starting 11, once Saka pulled out of the precaution, it seems like. But in the warm-up for Madueke, the starting lineup was the right one. The substitutions to use the depth in the squad, like Craig just said, were the right ones as well. Everybody that came on, if you have a look at it, had really good impacts on the performance and on the score. So he'd be very happy. And let's not forget as well that Liverpool drew twice with this Leeds team. That City were 2-2 at home until the dying minutes of the game before winning 3-2. That Chelsea lost at Ellen Road earlier in the season as well, and United drew there too. So it's I think to beat them 9-0 over the 2 games, home and away, so far this season, I think it's a big statement.
And another corner goal, meaning they have scored more goals from corners in a season. You have to go back to Liverpool 21-22 season. They scored 22, and of course we've still got a lot more good.
Well, they haven't scored more.
Say again? No, I was told they scored
more.
The
same.
I was told the wrong information. Yeah. Definitely told the wrong. I don't really want to talk about corners and set pieces. Is there anything new you want to say?
Who wants to talk about it? The producer?
Yeah,
no.
I just feel like
let's ignore him.
I feel like there are other things to talk about today.
He's not right in the head. He's shouting in my ear, that's how they're going to win the league. They're going to, I mean, it's part of it. He's shouting, what's he shouting? It's part of it, but it's not. And again, I'll go back to it, and I'm sorry for repeating this.
I didn't want him to. I didn't want to go there.
I'm sorry for repeating this, but teams...
This is your fault.
This is the dream for the position. Teams have to think outside the box against Arsenal with corner kicks. You can't keep getting everybody back because it's not working. The 6-yard box is becoming too condensed, and the goalkeepers, regardless of who they are, can't come out and get a clean punch. It's not rocket science. You've got to figure out a way to get Arsenal players back out of the box.
Stick 3 up front. It really isn't rocket science. Stick 3 people up front, and they've got to bring 4 back.
Yes.
At least. And put a couple on the edge of the box. But that's not to suggest that Arsenal then would not score from a set piece. But it's going to make it a little bit easier for a goalkeeper to come out and get a clean punch and not have about 14 bodies all huddled around them. But nobody does it. No. They're all trying to defend Arsenal the same way, and they're all failing. There you go. You can move on now.
Chelsea coming from behind to get the victory. Another win for Liam Rosenior. Here's the Chelsea boss.
My biggest learning is there's a spirit and a fight and a resilience in this group that I really, really like. I've demanded from the first day of stepping in, and we haven't had many training sessions, but we spoke about reacting positively to setbacks. We've spoken about reactions to losing the ball, pressing, energy, intensity. All of that was there in the second half, which wasn't there in the first half. I don't put that just down to the changes I made. It's very difficult. We've had so many games in a short space of time. I was fearful of a lack of energy, and not energy or lack of application, but I felt our decision making was really poor in the first half. When to keep the ball, when we pressed, we were just too far off it. West Ham were by far the better team. Had a reaction at half time. The reaction of the team in the second half tells me that we've got something really, really special here if I can utilise the squad in the correct way.
He's not short of confidence, is he? I'll tell you that. And in some sense, look, you can look at this a couple of ways, from the Napoli game to this game, and maybe some others. Brentford at home, which they won. They were completely outplayed by Keith Andrews' Brentford side, but won. You can look at it and say that what an admirable second half performance, exciting, scored goals, came back, won the game. They did. Those things are not debatable. Yep. But then you could say, well, he got his team selection wrong. And they were outplayed by a poor West Ham side for 45 minutes. And the fact that they're playing West Ham is the reason that they're back and won the game. Because West Ham cannot keep a clean sheet. They're terrible defensively. And then Nuno Espirito Santo brings Max Kilman on, and they go back to a back 5, and they just invite the pressure on, inviting more pressure and more pressure. It's something we've seen from West Ham this year. And then it was only going to go one way. So, yeah, his record at Chelsea is very good at Liam Rosenior thus far. But I think some of the games, I would say, he's got a little fortunate in terms of his team selection, and then they've been bailed out with some good goals, some late victories, and the fact that we're playing teams that have folded like West Ham. So it depends what side of your fence you sit on. I think if you're a Chelsea fan, you're okay because you've won all these games and things are going well. But I think when you look a little deeper down in some of the games he's been manager in, he's got a little bit fortunate in those games with his team selection.
Jules, we heard obviously when Enzo Maresca left that maybe he wasn't completely in control of the starting 11, medical team, blah, 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 other influences. Is that why we saw such a strange team selection for this tie, or was this all Rosenior? Because you watched Chelsea and how good they were midweek, and considering how you want to keep this momentum going, to bench someone like João Pedro is just a complete head-scratcher, isn't it?
It is, I agree, although there's a big game on Tuesday coming up with that League Cup semi-final second leg against Arsenal at the Emirates, and you think the lab should be able to, hold the line well and do well tonight against West Ham at Stamford Bridge, so we can keep João Pedro fresher for the game on Tuesday, because it's a massive game. Maybe not as important as this one in terms of finishing in the top 5 in the Premier League, but there's a final 90 minutes, 120 minutes away for Chelsea on Tuesday night against Arsenal. So I can see why maybe he thought, let me give a bit of rest to some of those players. But this first half was embarrassing. This team was embarrassing, really. The one that we see now on the graphic, It was embarrassing. What Garnacho, I mean, Gittens, okay, got injured, but Garnacho was embarrassing. I thought the lap was embarrassing. I thought Hato was embarrassing. And he had to change at halftime anyway. And maybe, yeah, I think there's no reason why the club would have changed what they were doing under Maresca. So yes, I think the performance staff and the medical staff and the performance people are saying to him, listen, he should be rested. He can only play half an hour. And then it's still down to him to make those choices. But I'm glad he did what he did in the second half. I think at halftime, in the first half especially, they were far too predictable too, far too rigid. There was far more fluidity in the second half. Although for Palmer, this is not good because to put him out wide on the right doesn't suit him. He clearly doesn't like it there. The ball never comes to him. There's something to fix there. But for the rest, there was far more fluidity than that first half where they were far too predictable.
I think he probably underestimated that West Ham could have hurt them on the counter. Because when you look at that team, and if I'm alone in this, please tell me. I don't rate Garnacho. I don't rate Gittens. I don't think Delap's a centre forward in the Premier League either. And Cole Palmer was invisible today as a number 10. And then defensively, they were a shot. I mean, West Ham had 20% of the ball in the first half and walked in at half-time, deservedly 2-0 up. So, yes, you got to give credit. You know, you can't give too much credit, to be fair, because anybody would have made the changes other than Fofana that he made. Anybody, because he had to. He had absolutely no choice. And the fact they're at home, and the fact that it's West Ham, and you know, at the first sign of trouble, they crumble. And they did it again today. So, yeah, I mean, it always feels fantastic to be 2-0 down and you come back and win 3-2. But you've got to look at it in the cold light of day. And they definitely made mistakes with the starting 11. There's no doubt about that.
Did you want to add something? Were you looking at anything up of interest?
I was looking to see if there was anything interesting, and I can confirm there is not.
Good. Okay, good to know. Looking at what that defeat means for West Ham and, of course, their aspirations to get out of the relegation zone. They currently sit 18th, of course, 5 adrift of Forest, who are still to play this weekend. Just to remind you of the rest of the matches that are remaining on Sunday for you. Villa against Brentford, United entertain Fulham, Forest against Palace, and the late game sees Spurs against Manchester City. We'll, of course, be looking back at those big ties on the next edition of ESPN FC.